The wind howled across the Montana plains like a wild animal that was hurt and angry. It was not just a breeze. It was a freezing force that carried snowflakes sharp as broken glass. Eleanor Hayes stood by a rough cottonwood tree. She pulled her thin wool shawl tighter around her shoulders. She pressed her back against the rough bark of the tree, hoping it would block the wind. But the cold bit through her worn-out dress anyway. Her fingers were inside gloves that had more patches than real fabric. They were numb and shaking as she tried to fix the clasp of her carpet bag. That bag was the only thing she had left in the world. It held everything she owned. She was 25 years old. She stood there all alone. The thought sat heavy in her chest like a big rock. She watched the storm clouds gathering far away. They looked dark and scary, just like her future. 3 days ago, she had been Miss Hayes, the school teacher. People respected her, even if she was not rich. Now she was just another woman with nowhere to go. Winter was coming fast, like a giant freight train that could not be stopped. She remembered the meeting with the school board. It happened in Miller's General Store last Tuesday. The men looked very serious, like they were at a funeral. Old Mr. Peterson would not even look her in the eye. He said the budget had been cut again. He said the territory did not have enough money to pay a teacher during the winter. Just like that, her job was gone. Her room above the bakery was gone too. Mrs. Kowalski said she needed the room for family members who could pay rent. She tried to sound nice, but Eleanor knew she just needed the money. Eleanor shifted her weight in the snow. She felt the $3 in her pocket clink together. That was every penny she had to her name. It was not enough to buy a ticket back east. Even if she had the money, she had nowhere to go back to. Her family's farm in Ohio had been sold 2 years ago to pay debts. The man she was supposed to marry, Harold, had left her. He said a poor teacher was not a good wife for a man like him. The wind picked up again. She could taste the snow in the air. This was real snow. It was the kind of snow that could bury a person if they were not careful. She had heard stories about travelers who were found in the spring, frozen solid like fence posts. The thought made her stomach hurt. It was a hurt that was worse than hunger. Through the swirling snow, she saw something. She could just make out the big iron gates of the Caldwell Ranch. Everyone in the town of Bitter Creek knew about Thomas Caldwell. He had the biggest ranch in 3 counties. People said he had thousands of cattle. They said his house was fancy enough for a rich lady from the city. She had seen him in town a few times. He was a tall man with very wide shoulders. His eyes were the color of the winter sky. He was always polite and tipped his hat, but he seemed far away, like the mountains. Eleanor had heard the whispers about him too. People said his wife died having their second baby. They said he had been raising his 2 boys all by himself ever since. The ladies at church talked about it a lot. They said it was not right for a man to clean the house and raise babies alone, but none of them ever offered to help him, except to bring a casserole sometimes. She did not know why she started walking toward those gates. Maybe she was just desperate. Maybe she thought freezing to death under a tree was a bad way to end her story. The wind was screaming now. She could barely see 10 feet in front of her. The snow was sticking to the ground. The gate was open, which was strange for such a rich place. Eleanor found herself walking up the long driveway. Her boots crunched through the snow. She pulled her shawl up over her head as the snow fell faster. The house appeared out of the storm like a dream. It was 2 stories tall and made of strong wood. The glass windows caught the little bit of light left in the gray sky. Smoke was coming out of the chimney. Warm yellow light shined from the downstairs windows. It looked like everything she had lost. It looked like everything she never had. She stood there with her bag in her hand. Snow was piling up on her shoulders. Then the front door opened. Thomas Caldwell stood there. He was so big he filled the whole door frame. He looked like he was carved from the same wood as his house. Even from far away, she could see he was surprised to see her. He stepped out onto the porch. He did not even wear a coat, even though it was freezing. "Are you lost, miss?" His voice was deep and steady. It carried easily across the yard. Eleanor felt her face get hot, even in the cold. What was she doing here? What could she say? She did not want to sound like a beggar, but that is what she was. She was begging at his gate, hoping for a little bit of kindness. "The storm came up sudden," she called back. That was true, even if it was not the whole story. Thomas Caldwell looked at her for a long time. He looked at her thin, worn-out coat. He looked at how she held her old bag tight. His eyes were sharp. He missed nothing. Then he stepped down from the porch and walked toward her. His boots made deep holes in the snow. "You are the school teacher," he said when he got close. I was, Alina corrected him. She lifted her chin up. She tried to keep her voice from shaking. My position was eliminated this week. He nodded slowly. He did not look surprised. I figured that. I saw you walking up the drive with everything you own in that bag. Heat flooded her face again. Was it that obvious? Did she look that pitiful? The storm is getting worse, Thomas said. He looked up at the sky. It will be a blizzard soon. Do you have somewhere to go? The simple question hit her hard. Somewhere to go. If only it were that easy. Not really, she said softly. They stood there in the falling snow. They were two strangers looking at each other. Alina could see him thinking behind his blue eyes. She did not know what he was thinking. When he spoke again, he was careful. I have coffee on the stove. The house is warm. In a storm like this, a person could freeze to death before making it back to town. It was an offer, but it was more than that. He knew how desperate she was. He did not pity her or judge her. It was just practical kindness. That is very generous, Mr. Caldwell, but I could not impose, she said. You are not imposing, he said. He turned back toward the house. Come on, before we both turn into ice sculptures. Alina hesitated for 1 second. She weighed her pride against her survival. Pride was a luxury she could not afford anymore. She followed Thomas Caldwell toward the warm light. Her feet crunched through the snow. The snow was falling faster now. It covered her tracks almost as soon as she made them. The porch stopped the wind. It was a relief. Thomas opened the front door. Warmth flowed out. It felt like heaven. Alina stepped inside. She understood why the ladies in town talked about this house. The entryway was bigger than the room she used to rent. It had shiny wood floors. A staircase curved up to the second floor like in a picture book. But she noticed what was missing. There was no woman's touch. There were no flowers in vases. There were no pretty pillows on the chairs. The house was clean, but it felt empty. It was functional, like a barn that had nice furniture in it. Boys, Thomas called out. He hung his hat on a peg by the door. Come meet our guest. She heard running feet. They came from deep in the house. Soon, two small faces looked around the corner of a sitting room. The older boy looked about 7 or 8. He had his father's strong jaw and serious eyes. The younger one was maybe 5. He had softer features and messy hair. This is Miss Hayes, Thomas told them. She is going to wait out the storm with us. The older boy was named Daniel. She remembered hearing his name in town. He looked at her with suspicion. The younger one was named Samuel. He stepped forward. He was curious. Are you really a teacher? Samuel asked. His eyes were wide. I was, Alina said. She crouched down to his level. Do you like learning things? Papa says I have to learn my letters, but they are hard, Samuel said. They are hard at first, Alina agreed, but once you know them, they open up whole worlds. Samuel nodded. He looked very serious. Daniel stayed where he was. He watched her like she might steal something. Coffee is this way, Thomas said. He pointed to the kitchen. Boys, you get back to your supper. The kitchen was huge. It had a stove that could heat half the schoolhouse. There were cabinets all the way to the ceiling, but like the rest of the house, it felt empty. It did not feel lived in. Thomas poured coffee from an old pot. The coffee was dark and strong. Alina wrapped her cold fingers around the cup. She breathed in the warmth. The storm is getting worse, Thomas said. He looked out the window. The snow was thick and heavy. The roads will be blocked by morning. Alina stared into her cup. She tried to think of something to say. She could not ask to stay the night. It would not be proper. She had nothing to give him in return. I heard about the school, Thomas said after a while. It is a shame. Children need learning. Not enough to pay for it, apparently, Alina said. The territory has no money. The railroad is taking a long time. Tax money is down. He took a sip of his coffee. He studied her. What will you do now? That was the question she was afraid of. Alina set down her cup. Her hands shook a little. I am not sure. Look for another job somewhere, I guess. Where? It was a simple word, but it showed the truth. There were no other teaching jobs, not within 100 miles, not for a woman alone with no money. I don't know, she admitted. Thomas was quiet for a long time. Alina could hear the wind howling outside. It rattled the windows. Somewhere in the house, one of the boys laughed. It was a happy sound. It was very different from the storm outside. I have an idea, Thomas said finally. Alina looked up. She was surprised by his serious voice. I need a wife, he said. Not for romance, not for love, for practical reasons. I need someone to keep the house. I need someone to help with the boys. I need someone to make sure there is hot food and clean clothes. Winter is coming hard. I cannot do it all alone. Alina stared at him. She thought she heard him wrong. I beg your pardon. A business arrangement, Thomas said. His voice was steady. It was like he was talking about the price of cows. You need shelter and safety. I need help running this place. We could make it work. Mr. Caldwell, I hardly know you, she said. What is to know? I am a decent man. I pay my debts. I keep my word. I do not drink too much. I never hit women or children. I own this land. I have money in the bank. You would have everything you need. Alina felt the world spin. This could not be happening. Men did not just ask women they barely knew to marry them. The boys need a mother, he continued. They are good children, but they are wild without a woman, and he paused. He chose his words carefully. I need a partner, someone I can count on. Outside, the wind screamed. Alina thought of her $3 silver. She thought of the long winter. She thought about freezing to death. It would not be a real marriage, Thomas added quickly. Separate rooms, separate lives in many ways, just two people helping each other through. Alina looked around the kitchen. She saw the empty spaces where a woman should be. She thought of the boys growing up without a mother. She thought of herself standing at the gate with snow on her shoulders. Why me? She asked quietly. Thomas thought about it. You are educated. The boys could use that. You are alone. That means you would work hard to make this work. He paused. He looked her in the eyes. You are desperate enough to say yes. The honesty took her breath away. No pretty words, no fake promises, just the truth. I need time to think, Alina said. Thomas nodded toward the window. The snow was so thick they could not see the barn. The storm is not going anywhere. Neither are you tonight. We can talk more in the morning. He was right. The weather made the choice for her. She was here for the night. Thomas showed her to a small room on the first floor. It was meant for a housekeeper. It was simple but clean. It had a small bed and a washstand. It was better than anything she could afford. Alina sat on the edge of the bed. She listened to the storm. She tried to imagine life in this house, waking up every morning to cook for a stranger, washing clothes for children who might not like her, living as a stranger in a home that was not hers. But then she thought of the alternative. The cold, the hunger, dying in the snow. Sometimes survival was the only choice. Outside, the storm howled. Alina pulled the quilts up to her chin. She tried to sleep. Morning came gray and quiet. The storm had stopped. Alina woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. She dressed quickly in her one good navy blue dress. She pinned her hair back. When she went to the kitchen, Thomas was standing at the window. He was looking at the snow. The storm is over, he said without turning around. There is 2 feet of snow. Alina looked out the window. The world was white. The fences were half buried. The road was gone. You were right about the roads, she said. It takes a few days to dig out, Thomas said. He turned to face her. Coffee is fresh. Boys are still sleeping. Alina took the cup he offered. The coffee was hot. It warmed her up. I have been thinking about what you said, she began, about your arrangement. Thomas nodded. He waited. I need to understand, she said. You say the boys need a mother. What does that mean? What do you expect from me? Thomas leaned against the counter. The boys need routine. They need someone to make sure they eat right and stay clean, someone to teach them manners and help with school. They are good boys, but they have been without a mother for 2 years. And what about you? What do you expect from a wife? The word felt strange. Wife. Someone to manage the house, make sure there is food and mended clothes, someone I can depend on when I am working with the cattle, someone who won't run away when things get hard. Alina put down her cup, and in return, safety, a roof over your head, food, my name, You would be the mistress of this house. The boys would be yours to raise. It was a practical deal, no talk of love. Eleanor was relieved. Separate rooms, she said, just to be clear. Separate rooms, Thomas said. You have your privacy, I have mine, unless, he stopped, unless someday we decide different, but that would be your choice. Eleanor blushed, she looked away. Then she heard small feet on the stairs. Samuel ran into the kitchen. He was rubbing sleep from his eyes. Papa, is the lady still here? He asked. Miss Hayes is still here, Thomas said. Say good morning. Good morning, Miss Hayes, Samuel said shyly. Good morning, Samuel, Eleanor smiled. Did you sleep well? The boy nodded. Did you see the snow? It is up to the windows. I saw it. It is a lot of snow. Papa says we might be stuck for days. Will you stay that long? The question hung in the air. Eleanor felt Thomas watching her. She looked at Samuel's hopeful face. Then she saw Daniel in the doorway. He was watching her too. I might, Eleanor said carefully, if your father doesn't mind. Can you really teach us letters? Samuel asked. He bounced on his toes. I can, would you like that? Yes, Daniel says letters are stupid, but I think they are like secret codes. They are very much like secret codes, Eleanor agreed. She looked at Daniel. What do you think, Daniel? Would you like to learn secret codes? Daniel shrugged, but he looked interested. Maybe. Thomas cleared his throat. Boys, go get dressed. Miss Hayes and I need to talk. The boys went upstairs. Thomas poured more coffee. They like you, Thomas said. Samuel does. Daniel is waiting to see. Daniel is protecting himself, Thomas said. He remembers his mother. He has been the man of the house since she died. It won't be easy for him to let someone else take over. Eleanor felt sad for the little boy. If I stay, she said, if we do this, what happens if it doesn't work? We figure it out, Thomas said. I am not a man who gives up. I don't think you are either. You survived this long. The town will talk, she said. A marriage this fast, people will assume things. People always talk. The question is if you care what they think. Eleanor cared, but she also wanted to survive. I want to teach, she said suddenly. The boys and others too. I know the school is closed, but other children need lessons. Thomas nodded. The house is big enough. You could use an upstairs room. It might be good for the boys to have friends over. He accepted her condition easily. Anything else? Thomas asked. Eleanor felt like she was standing on a cliff. Every instinct said to say yes. She had nowhere else to go, but marriage was serious. If I agreed, she said slowly, when would, how soon? As soon as the preacher can get here, a few days. So fast, her life changed in a week. Miss Hayes, Samuel called from the stairs. Can you help me with my buttons? Eleanor looked at Thomas. He nodded. May I? She asked. She went to help the boy. Samuel talked happily. Daniel appeared with messy hair. Come here, both of you, Eleanor said. She took a comb from her pocket. Let's fix this hair. She combed Daniel's hair. He let her. She saw a small smile. She fixed Samuel's face. She promised to teach them sailor knots. Thomas watched from the kitchen. He looked relieved. Later, Eleanor and Thomas were alone again. You haven't given me an answer, Thomas said. Eleanor looked at the kitchen. She thought of the boys. She thought of the cold outside. But mostly she thought of how Daniel let her fix his hair. If I say yes, she said, it is for them as much as for me. They need someone. They do, Thomas said. And I can teach school. Yes. Eleanor took a deep breath. Then yes, I will marry you, Thomas. The words felt strange, but not bad. Thomas nodded. I will ride to town when the roads are clear. I will talk to Reverend Morrison. What will you tell him? The truth, that we are two practical people making a practical decision. He extended his hand. Eleanor shook it. His hand was warm and strong. It felt like a deal. "Welcome to the family, Miss Hayes," he said. 3 days later, the roads were clear. Reverend Morrison arrived. He looked unhappy. He sat in the parlor holding his Bible. He looked at Thomas and Alina like they were bad children. "This is highly irregular," he said. "Marriage is sacred, not a business deal." Alina smoothed her dress. It was the same navy blue dress. She made a white collar from an old petticoat. "With respect, Reverend," Thomas said firmly, "the marriage will be legal. The reasons are our business." "And the children?" the preacher asked. "What example does this set?" "It sets the example that practical decisions are better than foolishness," Thomas said. The boys peeked around the corner. Samuel was excited. He asked if Alina would be his mama after the ceremony. "Can we start now?" Samuel asked. "Boys, go to the kitchen," Thomas said. "Mrs. Murphy has bread and jam." Mrs. Murphy was the neighbor. She came to be a witness. She was practical. She thought it was a good idea. Once the boys left, the Reverend opened his Bible. "Very well, but I do not approve." "Understood," Thomas said. The ceremony was short. Alina repeated the vows. She promised to honor a man she barely knew. Thomas spoke his vows calmly. He looked at her face the whole time. When they were pronounced husband and wife, there was an awkward moment. The Reverend expected a kiss. Thomas looked at Alina. She nodded slightly. He leaned down and pressed his lips to hers briefly. It was a polite kiss. It sealed the deal. "Well," Mrs. Murphy said brightly, "that is done. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Caldwell." Mrs. Caldwell, the name felt strange. She was not Alina Hayes anymore. She was a wife and mother. She was the mistress of a big ranch. The boys ran back in. Samuel hugged Alina. "Are you really our mama now?" "I suppose I am," Alina said. She patted his hair. Daniel watched. He looked like he was challenging her. "Prove yourself," his eyes said. After the guests left, the family was alone. The house felt different. "I will show you to your room," Thomas said. He led her upstairs. He opened a door at the end of the hall. The room was clearly a woman's room. It had a desk and a beautiful quilt, but it felt still. It felt like it was waiting. "This was Margaret's room," Thomas said. "I thought you might prefer it. It has privacy." Alina stepped inside. She touched the desk. She felt like she was trespassing. "I don't want to disturb anything," she said. "The room needs to be lived in," Thomas said. "She has been gone 2 years." He left her alone. Alina stood in the room. This was her space now. She unpacked her few things. She hung her simple dresses next to Margaret's fine clothes. Margaret had nice silk dresses. Alina's looked old. From the window, she could see the mountains. The land was beautiful but harsh. It reminded her that they needed each other to survive. Someone knocked on the door. "Come in," she called. Samuel poked his head in. "Papa says supper is ready. He made beans and bacon." Alina smiled. "I will be right down." She went downstairs. Mrs. Murphy had set the table with nice dishes and flowers. It looked welcoming. Thomas was serving food. He looked different without his jacket. He looked domestic. "Smells good," Alina said. She sat down. Daniel picked at his food. Samuel talked a lot. He was happy to have a woman there. "Mrs. Murphy said you can teach us letters now," Samuel said. "She said real teachers know everything." "I know quite a few things," Alina said. "We can start tomorrow." "Can we?" Samuel asked Thomas. Thomas nodded. "If your new mama thinks you are ready." The word mama sounded hard for him to say. Alina felt bad for him. He was watching his children attached to a stranger. "I already know some letters," Daniel said quietly. "Do you?" Alina asked. "That is wonderful. Maybe you can help me teach Samuel." Daniel looked surprised. He was glad she didn't ignore him. After supper, Alina read a story to the boys. They listened closely. "You read different than Papa," Samuel said. "The words have feelings." "Read more," Daniel said. It was the first time he asked her for something. Thomas watched from the doorway. He sent the boys to bed. Alina helped them. Daniel asked her a question before sleep. Are you really going to stay? He asked. I really am, Alina promised. Even when it gets hard, Papa says winters are hard. I can manage hard, she said. Daniel nodded, goods. Downstairs, Alina dried dishes while Thomas washed. They like you, Thomas said. Daniel is still deciding. He has forgotten how to be a child. Maybe that isn't bad, Alina said. It makes him strong. Maybe, but I want him to be happy. Alina felt warm inside. They were partners. I will be up early, Thomas said. Cattle need checking. I will have breakfast ready at 5:30, Alina said. This is your house too, Thomas said. You don't need permission to change things. Thank you, Alina said. Good night, Thomas. Good night, Alina. Alina went to her room. She looked in the mirror. She looked determined. She had made a choice. It wasn't the life she dreamed of, but it was a life. Maybe it could be a good one. The first week passed quickly. Alina learned how the house worked. She learned that Thomas liked strong coffee. She learned Samuel was afraid of storms. She learned Daniel could read labels on cans. But she learned nothing about Margaret. Her clothes were still there. Her hairbrush was still there. But no one talked about her. It was like a secret rule. On the 8th day, Alina found Daniel in the nursery. It was a dusty room full of covered furniture. Daniel was holding a wooden horse. He was looking at a picture turned to the wall. She made this for me, Daniel said. He did not turn around. Before Samuel was born. Alina walked in. It is beautiful. She was making a cradle, Daniel said. His voice shook. For the baby sister, they both died. Alina felt heavy. Another baby. No one told her. Papa cried, Daniel whispered. I wasn't supposed to see. He held Mama and cried like the world was ending. Alina tried to imagine strong Thomas crying. Sometimes strong people need to cry, she said. Daniel turned the picture around. It was Margaret. She was beautiful and kind. She looks like she gave good hugs, Alina said. She did, Daniel said. Do you think she is watching us? I think she wants you to be happy. What if she thinks you are replacing her? Daniel asked. That was Alina's fear too. I am not trying to replace her, Alina said firmly. No one can do that, but maybe your heart is big enough for both of us, her memory and me. Daniel looked at her seriously. Promise you won't leave. I promise. Will you tell me stories about her? Daniel asked. I want to remember. I would like that, Alina said. That night, Alina went to Thomas's study. May I come in? Thomas looked up, of course. Daniel showed me the nursery. He told me about the baby sister. Thomas stopped writing. His eyes went blank. He shouldn't be in there. He misses her. He misses them both. The past is the past, Thomas said coldly. It does no good to dwell on it. Forgetting is not healing, Alina said. I cannot live in yesterday, Thomas said. He leaned back. I have today to manage. Alina heard his pain. He blames himself, Daniel had said. You couldn't have prevented it, Alina said quietly. Couldn't I? Thomas said. I should have sent her to Denver for a doctor. I let her stay here. It cost her everything. Alina's heart broke for him. You can't know that. It reminds me not to make mistakes again, Thomas said. The boys need to talk about her, Alina said. Thomas looked at his papers. She used to sing to them, Irish lullabies. She wanted to teach them piano. He smiled sadly. She was everything good. I need you to understand what we have. Our arrangement. It is not the same. It can't be. The words hurt, but they were honest. I understand, Alina said. I don't want you to have expectations, Thomas said. I don't want you to hope for something that died 2 years ago. I am not hoping for anything, Alina lied. She realized she had started to hope for friendship, maybe more. I should let you work, she said. Alina, Thomas said, I am grateful for what you are doing. If you need anything, just ask. Thank you, she said. She went to her room. She sat at Margaret's desk. It was hard to be in a house full of grief. Daniel knocked on her door. He came in. I heard you talking, he said. Papa blames himself, but it wasn't his fault. Sometimes people blame themselves for things they can't control, Alina said. Do you blame yourself for things? Daniel asked. Sometimes, Alina admitted. I blamed myself for losing my family farm. But you were just a girl. Feelings don't always make sense. Do you think you will ever love us? Daniel asked. Really love us? Alina was surprised. Oh, Daniel, I already do. It was true, she loved them. Really? Really, love isn't about blood, it is about caring. Daniel nodded. I'm glad you are here. Even if Papa doesn't love you like Mama, I'm glad. I'm glad too, Alina said. She tucked him in again. She felt settled. She might not have Thomas's heart, but she had his children's love. That was enough. 3 weeks later, they went to church. It was a test. Alina wore her navy dress. She was nervous. The ride to town was quiet. When they arrived, people stared. They whispered. Quick work, they said. Poor Margaret. Alina held her head high. She walked into church with Thomas and the boys. She felt eyes burning into her back. The ladies whispered. After church, it was worse. The women gathered around. Mrs. Caldwell, Mrs. Henderson said. Her smile was fake. How is married life? It must be nice to have security. She implied Alina married for money. It is difficult, Mrs. Patterson said. Margaret was a saint. They compared Alina to Margaret. They wanted her to fail. It must be hard for the boys to have a stranger in the house, Mrs. Henderson said. She is not a stranger, a small voice said. Samuel stepped forward. He held Alina's hand. She is our new mama. She teaches us letters and sailor knots. The women were surprised. Well, children adapt, Mrs. Patterson sniffed. They are honest, Mrs. Wilson said. She was nice. If he says she cares, she cares. Before Alina could speak, there was a fight. Daniel was punching Mrs. Henderson's son, Billy. Thomas ran over. What is going on? He said my new mama is a gold digger, Daniel yelled. He was crying. He said she doesn't care about us. Silence fell over the churchyard. Billy, Thomas said quietly, apologize. I just heard it, Billy mumbled. Then adults should be careful what they say, Thomas said. He looked at Mrs. Henderson. She turned red. She cooks our breakfast, Samuel shouted to everyone. She reads stories. She fixed my shirt. She promised she won't leave. Daniel stood next to him. She teaches us history. She makes Papa smile, real smiles. Thomas looked down at his son. He looked amazed. Mrs. Murphy stepped in. Maybe we should welcome Mrs. Caldwell instead of being mean. People nodded. The mood changed. People started being nice. On the way home, Thomas walked beside Alina. I am sorry about that, he said. It's okay, Alina said. Daniel looked proud. He had defended her. That night in the kitchen, Alina thanked Thomas. Thank you for standing up for me. You are my wife, Thomas said. What affects you affects us. The boys were brave, Alina said. Daniel said you smile more, real smiles. Thomas paused. I hadn't realized. It's not bad, Alina said. It means you are settling in. We are building something, Thomas said, together. Together, Alina agreed. It wasn't love yet, but it was family. Then the trouble started. Cattle went missing. Thomas noticed 20 cows gone, then more. Wolves don't cut fences, Jake the ranch hand said. Thomas held a meeting. Someone is stealing them, organized. Strangers in town asked about land, Miguel said, and the railroad. Someone wants the land for the railroad, Thomas said. They are trying to make us sell. The next day, they killed a bull. It was a message. Then they shot Jake. He stumbled into the kitchen bleeding. Alina sprang into action. She cleaned the wound. She stopped the bleeding. Thomas watched her. He saw she was capable. These men mean business, Thomas said. That night, Thomas and Alina made a plan. I sent for the marshal, Thomas said, but it will take a week. What do we do? Alina asked. We defend what is ours. If they come to the house, you hide in the cellar with the boys. No, Alina said. I can shoot. My father taught me. I want to help. Thomas stared at her. You would risk yourself. This is my home. You are my husband. Where else would I be? Thomas looked at her differently. Respect. Okay, but if it goes bad, you hide. Promise. I promise. 2 nights later, the attack came. Gunshots woke Alina. She saw muzzle flashes outside. Boys, she ran to their room. Wake up. What is happening? Daniel asked. Bad men, we are playing the hiding game. Go to the cellar. She took them to the kitchen pantry. She opened the trap door. Go down, stay quiet. Where are you going? Daniel asked. To make sure you are safe. She closed the door. She grabbed Thomas's shotgun. She stood in the hallway. 2 men kicked in the front door. They had guns. They saw Alina. They laughed. Look at the lady playing soldier, one said. Leave, Alina said. Her voice was steady. Last warning. They stepped forward. Alina fired. The blast hit the first man in the leg. He fell screaming. The second man hesitated. Alina reloaded fast. Next one is in your chest, she said. Thomas appeared in the doorway behind them. He had his gun. Drop it, Thomas said. The men surrendered. Alina started to shake. The adrenaline was gone. Alina, Thomas said softly, are you okay? She nodded. He took the gun gently. The boys. Safe in the cellar. Thomas looked at her with pride and gratitude. You could have hidden. They are my children too, Alina said. Yes, Thomas said, they are. After the attack, everything changed. Thomas touched her shoulder more. He talked to her more. He watched her tend to Jake's wound with admiration. You have a gift, he told her. My mother taught me, she said. Later, Thomas came to her. Alina, about what we agreed to, it was supposed to be practical. Yes, but it became something else for me. Alina's heart raced. You are not a replacement, Thomas said. You are you. I find myself caring about you, not just gratitude, real feelings. Alina teared up. I know this isn't what you signed up for, Thomas said. Thomas, Alina said, my feelings changed too. I came for safety, but I fell in love with the boys, and I fell in love with the man you are, the father, the protector. She looked at him. I am not asking you to forget Margaret, but if there is room for me. There is room, Thomas said. Margaret is my past, you are my future. He kissed her. It was a real kiss, warm and loving. The boys ran in. Dinner smells good, Samuel yelled. Daniel looked at them. He smiled. You were kissing. Yes, Thomas laughed. Does that mean you love each other? Real love? Samuel asked. Yes, Thomas said, real love. Samuel hugged Alina. I knew it. Daniel hugged her too. I'm glad. Mama would want Papa to be happy. Alina cried happy tears. That night they sat in the parlor. What now? Alina asked. We finish it, Thomas said. We build a life by choice. The railroad trouble isn't over. We will face it together. Together, Alina said. They held hands. Outside the wind blew, but inside it was warm. They found love where they didn't expect it. Spring came early. The snow melted. The ranch was safe. The bad men were arrested. 6 months had passed. Alina was baking bread. Mama, the school children are here, Samuel yelled. Alina taught 8 children now. She was happy. At lunch, Thomas came to the house. He looked nervous. Eleanor, can I speak to you? Wagons were coming up the road. It was the whole town. Reverend Morrison, Mrs. Murphy, everyone. Thomas, what is going on? Well, Thomas said, our first wedding was a business deal. I thought, maybe we should do it properly. Alina saw flowers and food. A real wedding, Thomas said, because I choose you, because I love you. Alina hugged him, yes. They got dressed up. Mrs. Murphy helped Alina. Thomas stood under an oak tree. He looked happy. He looked like a man in love. They said vows again. I offer you my heart, Thomas said. I promise to cherish you. I promise to be your partner and love your children, Alina said. They kissed, the town cheered, they danced and laughed. At sunset, they sat on the porch. Do you think Margaret approves? Alina asked. I think she is happy her children have a mother who loves them. She believed there was always room for more love. Alina felt peace. Papa, Mama, come dance, Samuel yelled. They danced. That night cleaning up, Thomas asked, any regrets? None, Alina said. Every hard step led me here, to you. I will make sure you never regret choosing us, Thomas said. Us, Alina repeated. They had started with a contract. They ended with a family. It wasn't the story she dreamed of as a girl. It was better. It was real. Love had grown from necessity into something strong enough to weather any storm. Alina Caldwell was home.